Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, continuing on reviewing more Christmassy materials on the weekends, and that's right, you read the title, and as was teased in the last review video, something A Christmas Carol related, and this one taking place in Bedrock. Yep. That's right, not to mention that it is celebrating its anniversary. Yep, from 1994. It's A Flintstones Christmas Carol. Yes, A Flintstones Christmas Carol. Yeah, I've technically seen this before. One of the very first time I got to know that there was a Flintstones Christmas Carol, I remember having, one of those DVDs of Charlie and Lola, but, if you've had those, well, and anything Warner Brothers related, with DVD releases of cartoons, the sneak previews that they would show, one of them, of course, being A Flintstones Christmas Carol. So that was like one of the first times I knew that there was a Flintstones Christmas Carol. And I think the very first time I watched it and seen it, I think, and obviously, yeah, once, when it was on Boomerang from Cartoon Network, obviously during the holidays, that's when I watched it. I did remember a little of it when the very first time I watched it. Rewatching it, and because I knew I was going to review this, man, I had forgotten a good chunk of this. Like, most notably, I had completely forgotten about this whole thing of a bedrock bug and Wilma being so upset with Fred throughout almost the entirety of A Flintstones Christmas Carol, for a reason, of course. And one thing I did not forget was that, well, the people of Bedrock, them putting on a play of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. The very first time when I knew that and discovered that, there was a Flintstones Christmas Carol, well, I thought, and it would seem obvious the first time that, it's just the Flintstones characters as those characters from A Christmas Carol. That, they're not putting on a play or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like, say, well, the Muppets Christmas Carol, they're not putting on a play. It's like the legit thing, they are those characters and such. You get my point, yeah. Same goes for, say, Mickey's Christmas Carol, as examples, yeah. And, the thing is, like, the fact that in the Flintstones, they have Christmas, and even a Christmas Carol. But it's a cartoon, so what does it matter? I know that even Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic, made a joke about that when he covered the Flintstones Pebbles cereal commercial that was Christmassy, in one of the Nostalgia Critic commercial videos. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but yeah, so... But again, it's a cartoon, so, what does it matter? Still, go figure. But anyways, yeah, but, having to rewatch this... And a lot of stuff that I'd forgotten about, what goes down in A Flintstones Christmas Carol, yeah. Well, A Flintstones Christmas Carol is quite enjoyable. A pretty nice, cute, entertaining Flintstones piece of material. And, with how they do A Christmas Carol. And even though Fred, him playing the part of Scrooge for the stage adaptation of the story... Well, he kind of is, in reality, acting like a stingy Scrooge and such, but little does he know. And it's not like he's really doing this on purpose. We know that, so, yeah. But yeah, just overall, A Flintstones Christmas Carol, it's pretty good. A pretty good piece of Flintstones material, and how they do A Christmas Carol, and what goes on / down in... their version of A Christmas Carol, and what especially goes on with Fred himself. His journey while performing on stage, and how slowly but surely, he learns his mistakes, and even, like, playing, through playing Scrooge on stage, Alright, so, enough said. As always, read the description / the story. Fred is cast as Ebenezer Scrooge in a stage adaptation of the story, but is acting a bit stingy in real life. Yeah. Okay, so with that out of the way, getting into A Flintstones Christmas Carol itself. Yeah, because, again, Fred being cast as Ebenezer Scrooge for, a stage adaptation of A Christmas Carol. In the Flintstones world, it's not Charles Dickens, no, it's Charles Brickens. And I didn't quite realize, until near this ended, and when I was looking up on its IMDb page and its cast, good old John Rhys Davies is the voice of Charles Brickens. Very fitting, yeah. Especially since John Rhys Davies, he's definitely one of those that's got a good voice even for narration, right? So, yeah. Yeah. All throughout this, at the beginning, Fred, he is just constantly focusing on, him, rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing. Even when, he's getting ready in the morning, ready for work, and when, he almost forgot to drop off, little Pebbles at, daycare, that place. And, Wilma kind of getting a little aggravated with her husband, taking this role too much and really focused and such. Not to mention, almost everybody in Bedrock is a part of this stage play that will start later in the evening. And while at work, because moments that happen at Slate and Company, with Fred and Barney, because, Fred insisting a few times that, he should rehearse alongside with Barney, and even how some of the other co-workers feel towards Fred right now with his behavior and kind of acting like a Scrooge. Some of them, their parts that they'll be playing in the stage production, well, Mr. Slate, he actually was wanting to, play the part of Scrooge. But, of course, that was given to Fred. And Fred kind of being a jerk, not intentionally, to Mr. Slate. And even Maggie Magma. And I remembered Maggie very well the very first time I watched it. Yeah, remembering her by name. Maggie Magma being voiced by Marcia Clark. Yeah. And also Marcia Clark also voicing Miss Feldspar. Yeah. And to name some of the other the voice cast members, the late Henry Corden, Fred Flintstone, Jean Vander Pyle, if I'm saying that right, Wilma Flintstone, Frank Welker in this voices, well, obviously Dino, we would know that, but also Barney Rubble. Well, and because coincidentally, the late legendary Mel Blanc, man of 1,000 voices, voicing both Barney and Dino on the Flintstones cartoon show. Yep. And also the late Rosie Taylor, Pebbles, yep, in this, and Don Messick, Bam Bam Rubble, and Joe Rockhead, yep, and John Stevenson, Mr. Slate, Marcia, yeah, I already said Marcia Clark, Will Ryan, the late Will Ryan, Nephew Ned, Brian Cummings, the Ghost of Christmas Present, that being the only voice he does, Renee Levant, Philo Quartz, who's the policeman, and I already mentioned John Rhys, and Joanne Gerber doing additional voices, as well as Maurice LaMarche, the late Howard Morse, and Jan Rabson. Yeah, and then only one that's uncredited, Rip Taylor, voicing Venice Flytrap and doing additional voices. Yeah, additional voices. Yeah. So there we go, our cast, our voice cast and such. Yeah, so again, Fred rehearsing, even when Maggie steps in, really wanting to go at it with Fred, like kissing him and such. But good thing on Mr. Slate, he blocked them kissing one another. Yeah, very nice of him. Because how would Wilma feel? Yeah, so, and yeah, and actually Mr. Slate tells them that after lunch, they're off for the rest of the day, and because of the upcoming stage production, yeah, of A Christmas Carol. Yeah, and again, just, kind of getting out of hand, and with Fred really going at it, with him rehearsing over and over and over again, and when insisting to Barney that they should practice and rehearse, and yeah. And well, because Fred, he forgot to do some Christmas shopping. Yeah, because Barney told Fred that, well, he was going to head back home and, wrap the presents. But for Fred, no presents, so now he has to dash to, the Bedrock shopping center and try to find any presents and such, for Wilma and Little Pebbles. And, because going for a dress that's on display and a bunch of others, and when it comes to gift wrapping, a long line, and, sometimes you'd have a number and such, your number so-and-so and you're next, that whole thing. Even asking a little, caveman boy, to help out with what he has gotten and with the gift wrapping and such, And not to mention, when getting back, and also because, he has to be there on time for, the stage play / production, well, he quickly stops back at the house to get a little snack. There was a note that was left for Fred by Wilma, but also, Fred forgot to pick up Pebbles. Yeah, so that's one of the biggies, and that upsets Pebbles. I'm sorry, Wilma, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Pebbles technically being a little upset towards her daddy, but not really. Not that much. Also, Bam Bam. Bam Bam is playing the part of Tiny Tim, while the others, like, say, Barney, he's playing the part, and it seems obvious, Bob Cratchit, yeah. But also, Barney's also, at one point later on, he then also plays the part of Fezziwig, yeah. Very fitting, yeah, for him to play the part of Fezziwig. Yeah, so Fred arriving, and, well, the play will soon go on, and yeah, Wilma very upset towards Fred on what he's done, and not thinking about, her and their daughter and such, yeah. All that he was thinking of was just how he was just trying to really get into depth and, with this performance. And it's no Broadway and how they call Broadway in the world of Flintstones. No, it's just a simple stage production, okay? But at least they got a good budget with the sets and such, from what we see. Yeah. But yeah. And, well, sure enough, because, we see, the play go on while we, see Charles Brickens behind the curtain / backstage being the narrator, and thus the play for A Christmas Carol begins, and, a good chunk of this, because we see, them doing this, retelling this a lot, retelling the story, we get a lot of this, and, of course, sometimes, the curtains would close, an intermission and such, but yeah, so, from Fred, Barney, and everybody else, they do pretty good at, bringing A Christmas Carol to life, and with their performances, yeah, yeah, because, from, like, say, Nephew Ned showing up, or, that's the thing, because, it's not Fred, it's Ned, so, and even when the two guys, for a charity and such come in, and so on, yeah, we know how Scrooge acts towards them, Christmas, bah, humbug, and so on, good afternoon, yada yada, and, yeah, and Scrooge allowing, Cratchit, being played by Barney, that he can have half the day to on Christmas Day and such, but be here the next morning and so on, and yeah, and well, Scrooge closing for the night, and by pulling in a giant boulder to block the door, and yeah, walking off, and when at one point Scrooge's hat gets flown off of him, well, because of a snowball, two cave boys accidentally throwing a snowball at him, knocking his hat off, and being run over. It's completely ruined, and bringing out a police officer, and yeah, for what has just happened. And the one cave boy whom actually Fred, crossed paths with at the shopping center in Bedrock, well, playing the part of, the kid that we would see in A Christmas Carol, and how, the interactions would go between him and Scrooge at first, but then later on, and when Scrooge is redeemed, you there, boy, what's today? Yeah, that kid. Having the cave boy, shovel a path back to Scrooge's house, jeez. But sure enough, yeah, when Scrooge finally makes his way back home, well, just like in A Christmas Carol, the knocker being the face of Jacob Marley, and when entering inside and settling down for the evening on Christmas Eve, having leftover bowl of gruel, and, well, it doesn't take too long for Scrooge to be greeted by the ghost of Jacob Marley. Yep. And Jacob Marley warning Scrooge, being played by Fred, that he needs to change his ways, or he will have to suffer the same thing that, Marley has with chains and such. And warning Scrooge about 3 spirits that will emerge, later this evening. And yeah, so, when it comes to, and after that, and, curtain is closed for now, an intermission, well, whom was going to be playing the part of the Ghost of Christmas Past is unable to perform because of the bedrock bug. Yeah, this virus that's technically going on right now on Christmas Eve. So it's up to Wilma to play the part of the Ghost of Christmas Past, even though, yeah, her still being upset towards Fred, they still pull it off, especially Wilma. Yeah, so, well, thus the part with the Ghost of Christmas Past showing Scrooge's Christmas past happens, and at a certain point, well, it's almost time for the sequence where, Fezziwig's annual Christmas party happens, and as I said, Barney playing the part of Fezziwig, and also Maggie Magma, is to play the part of Scrooge's love interest, Belle. Well, unfortunately, yeah, she comes down with the bedrock bug as well. Now Wilma has to play the part of Belle, but she pulls it off really good. And even Fred was confused, I thought Maggie was supposed to play my love interest and such, and Wilma becoming a little jealous and such. Yeah, even though she's mad at Fred, well, still, because her being jealous towards, Fred interacting with other attractive women and such, yeah. And yeah, but, it goes pretty well. However, through Wilma's performance as Belle, she is really showing emotion and how upset she is towards Fred. And once that's over with, the Ghost of Christmas Past stuff, and another intermission, well, Fred is concerned for Wilma, and Betty, telling Fred that she won't speak to him and how much she's upset towards him for forgetting Pebbles and her and so on, yeah. And, Fred feeling so upset about this, and when at one point he realizes, and yeah, that he has to go get the Christmas presents, which, he left for, with that cave boy at the shopping center, and, 10 minutes until he's supposed to get back up on stage, and for him, him saying to himself that 10 minutes will be fine, as long as he hurries, and he's unable to take his car. There's not enough time to get the car out of the parking lot, so he has to dash his way to the store, and, well, him trying to get in, stacking a couple things to get in through a window, and when, yeah, there's no sign of what he was planning to get as Christmas presents. And then at one point, apparently, Fred, who's playing the part of Scrooge, he's still in the Scrooge wardrobe, the bed throw and such that Scrooge wears. Apparently the Ghost of Christmas Future / Yet to Come pops up, and Fred thinking that it is legitimately the Ghost of Christmas Future. But actually, no, it's Philo, the policeman. A few times early on in this where, Philo pulled over Fred and had interactions with him and such, And Philo, it's nice to see that, he lets Fred off the hook a good chunk of times, especially because Philo also being a part of the stage production / the play of A Christmas Carol. Philo helping Fred, get back to the to the stage production, because Philo playing the part of Christmas Future and so on. So it goes pretty well between them. And Fred showing up a little late, and it was understandable why Fred disappeared, and just even Wilma felt that Fred was probably signing autographs, but he wasn't, and we know. But little does Wilma know what he was actually doing. So, so the play continues now, coming to the part with the Ghost of Christmas Present. And again, the Ghost of Christmas Present being voiced by Brian Cummings. So what goes on with Scrooge's encounter of the Ghost of Christmas Present, and what happens on Christmas morning? Well, because, from, say, Scrooge's nephew, Ned, in this, playing Christmas games and referring to Scrooge, charades and describing Scrooge. But overall, nephew Ned, not giving his uncle a hard time and being mean to him, still giving his uncle a toast and so on. Very, very sweet and kind of, of Scrooge's nephew. Well, and because, Ned being the son of Scrooge's late sister, Fran, and what goes on, with the Cratchit family, and obviously Betty playing the part of Mrs. Cratchit, and the two children of the Cratchits being played by Pebbles and, well, of course, Bam Bam, as I mentioned early on, playing Tiny Tim. Even Dino being the being the Cratchit's pet dog. Well, because Dino is technically a dog. I mean, even though he's a dinosaur, he acts like a dog. So, of course, Bob Cratchit, he too not giving, his boss, Scrooge, a hard time, being mean to him, and giving Scrooge a toast, the founder of the feast. But, of course, as we all know, Mrs. Cratchit, and even especially Betty, how she too feels towards Fred, because of Wilma and so on, just refusing to give a toast to Mr. Scrooge, but, as we all know. And right at the end of, where Scrooge, encountering the Ghost of Christmas Present, the Ghost of Christmas Present's time is coming to an end, and sure enough, when we come to the Ghost of Christmas Future / Yet to Come, and, well, of course, as we all know, the Ghost of Christmas Future / Yet to Come, the only one of the three whom does not speak, instead just nodding and pointing, and, because we don't see any hands, just the sleeves. But whom, is it Philo still who's playing the Ghost of Christmas Future / Yet to Come? Well, a little later, and we'll, when I get there, So what is to happen if Scrooge does not change his ways? And with Ghost of Christmas Future / Yet to Come emerging, and what he shows to Scrooge? Well, because nobody caring that Scrooge has died. And even say, when sadly, it seems as though that Tiny Tim has died and will not survive. And Scrooge feeling so upset even when finding out that, Tiny Tim did not make it. And as we all know, Scrooge having such a huge connection and just, starting to feel so close to Cratchit's son, Tiny Tim. When Ghost of Christmas Present happens and so on, and feeling very concerned towards Tiny Tim. What could possibly happen in Christmas Future if Scrooge does not change his ways? And to speed things up, because, when at that point, the cemetery and seeing the tombstone of Tiny Tim, and when Scrooge, sees another tombstone, the one that whom nobody, cares for and, feels sad of his passing, and when it's revealed that, yeah, it's the grave of Ebenezer Scrooge, the wind is getting intense, and Fred, playing Scrooge, promising that he will change his ways, he will honor Christmas in his heart, and so on, and yeah. And well, thankfully, because Scrooge waking up and everything's okay, and there's a chance to change and such, make things good and better. Yeah. And Scrooge encountering the little cave boy who shoveled a clear path back to his home, asking him, what's today's date, and giving him a lot of money to get the biggest turkey and so on. And Scrooge coming across those two gentlemen, although one of them is played by Wilma, because the other one coming down with the bedrock bug. When did this happen exactly? How did this happen? A Flintstones Christmas Carol doesn't even establish it. It just happens like that, okay? No explanation, but yeah. Wilma, she is still refusing to listen to Fred, even in character, and even when Fred is assuring her that he's become much better, and he gets it now, and so on. And, still in character, giving a lot of money, and for the charity donations and such, yeah. And, well, when seeing the turkey, that Scrooge had bought, and having it directly delivered to the Cratchit's house, and so on, and, well, because, still, Fred just, trying to get Wilma to listen, but she won't. And then, even when Scrooge, meeting up with Bob Cratchit once again, and tricking Bob, and then when it comes to him saying that he will raise his salary and the business, now it's both not just Scrooge's, but Cratchit's as well. Scrooge making Bob Cratchit his official partner after Jacob Marley. So, yeah. Even the cave boy, helped out on that too, because, redecorating and with the sign and such, now it's both Scrooge and Bob Cratchit's business, yeah. And, yeah, the play now coming to an end, and, everyone applauding and such, and, everyone taking a bow, and, well, right as the curtains dropped, and everybody was lifting up Fred, they drop him because they're all pissed off at him and such because, acting like a Scrooge. But again, he really is trying to assure and get them to believe in him that he has changed, and he is so sorry towards Wilma, forgetting about her, Pebbles, and everybody else that matters. Yeah, and it's true. Us, how we feel towards human beings and our loved ones, they matter the most, especially on Christmas. Yeah, so Fred realizing this, and again, not like that he didn't intentionally meant to accidentally act like a Scrooge and stingy and such, yeah. And even Fred saying that, they could talk it over at dinner, especially at Wilma's mom's house. Yeah. And, well, we see who the ghost of Christmas future / yet to come is, when the robe is pulled down. Well, it's Dino. Dino played the part of the ghost of Christmas future / yet to come. Dino did pretty good acting as the ghost of Christmas future / yet to come. And, well, what about Captain why did I say Captain? Sorry, Captain of the police. Sorry. Philo, Officer Philo. What happened to him? Is it not obvious? The bedrock bug? Yeah, so, to all those that got the bedrock bug, that's a shame, But hey, the show kept going, and it turned out really good. And Fred, at one point, noticing and saying that, you hear those applause? They love me, Fred, says Wilma. I'm just kidding. They loved all of us. And they for sure did. And also, Charles Bricken's, he does finish off narrating. And even when at one point, because it was not going in the direction as what he wrote, and especially with Fred and Wilma, how they play their characters, even when at one point he just flat out gave up and walked off. But eventually, yeah, for Charles Brickens, you know, he was okay, and it turned out okay, and such, yeah. And right before it ends off, well, Fred 2 coming down with the bedrock bug, and right as they are going to be heading to Wilma's mom's house for Christmas dinner, oh boy, poor Fred, yeah. But overall, despite that, in the end, he too got the bedrock bug, he managed to shapen up and be much better on Christmas Eve and right before Christmas Day was about to emerge, yeah. Great way for that to end off, definitely. Yeah. A Flintstones Christmas Carol, again, is a pretty good piece of Flintstones material, them doing something Christmassy, and in this case, them doing their very own adaptation of A Christmas Carol, and how it was done, like, you know, them putting on a stage play, and Fred, you know, despite the fact that he is playing the part of Scrooge, him technically in reality acting like a Scrooge and being stingy, but he doesn't know that, and he's not intentionally doing this, and how through, you know, his performance of Scrooge, learning and shaping up and becoming a better, you know, man, and especially a better husband and father to Wilma and Pebbles, and a better person slash friend to everybody, of course, most notably Barney. Yeah, just everything about A Flintstones Christmas Carol, really good and enjoyable. From the story, what goes on with the characters, and, you know, whom is portraying who for the stage play slash production of A Christmas Carol, the lessons to be learned, especially for Fred, obviously, and the funny moments and touching moments, yeah, pretty good. And the music to this, you know, the music and score, you know, the fact because, you know, that's, and them putting on a stage play of A Christmas Carol, they've got a good budget and such, you know, yeah, just overall, A Flintstones Christmas Carol is a really good, enjoyable piece of Flintstones Christmassy material, without a doubt. And I'm sure you guys would think so too. And I'm giving A Flintstones Christmas Carol, yeah, this sounds about right. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 stars. Yes, 7 out of 10 stars for A Flintstones Christmas Carol. And what about you guys? What did you think of A Flintstones Christmas Carol itself, with what goes down and such in A Flintstones Christmas Carol, them doing their own adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol from beginning to end, what goes on with Fred and everybody else in this, what were some of your favorite moments, and, you know, and just certain parts that are very important that goes on in A Flintstones Christmas Carol, and again, that especially goes for Fred, and how in the end, it all turned out great. Yeah. Yeah, just overall, what do you think of A Flintstones Christmas Carol itself? And, is this one of your, would this be one of your favorite Flintstones Christmassy materials, or, you know, any other Hanna-Barbera Christmassy material? Just, yeah. But again, yeah, what do you think of this itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of A Flintstones Christmas Carol. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And of course, continuing on, reviewing more Christmassy materials on the weekends. Stay tuned later tonight because, well, gonna be reviewing another Christmas Carol material, adaptation, etc. And let's just say, and to best describe it, you probably are gonna, you're obviously gonna immediately figure this out when I say this. Dr. Fraser Crane is Ebenezer Scrooge. You know. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, happy anniversary to A Flintstones Christmas Carol, and peace out. Christmas, bah humbug!